Hey everybody. So I'm battling this chest cold and sore throat, so I realized I'm not going to be able to come to school today, and I definitely don't want to mingle among you checking your notes, because, I don't want you to get this. So I'm going to record this video to kind of show you how we're going to do the analysis, because I don't want us to lose out on doing that, even though I'm out sick today. If you have questions, you can always send me a message on Canvas. For the bell work today, unless you're first period, you're going to do the Nearpod. The link for that is on the instructional plan for today. Everybody else already did the Nearpod, so you just need to catch up and do that one. My other classes, you should see a Padlet link on the Canvas instructional plan for today, and click on that link, and you're just going to do like a fun little fact, an interesting fact you've learned so far about your author's life. Hopefully you've found something interesting as you're doing your research. If not, maybe you can do some really quick research right now to find something interesting. Once you've done that, then I want you to access the PDF of the flowers. Again, you should be able to see that on your instructional plan. So you can go ahead and pause the video now and go read the story, The Flowers. It's not a long story. You'll see it's like a page long. So it's short, and I would say short and sweet, but subject matter is not so sweet. So go ahead and read through that story. You might even want to read it twice just so you can kind of understand and get what's going on. So pause the video now and go read the story, and then come back to this video. Okay, so I'm assuming you have already read the story at this point. You've unpaused. So now what we're doing is we're basically looking at how we would write an analysis paragraph, or really our analysis paragraphs for, this story. And by seeing how you could do it for The Flowers, then hopefully you'd be able to see how to easily do it for your story. So the first thing that you are going to do on the analysis part of the paper is where it says analysis of the protagonist, 1 to 2 paragraphs. What is one theme of the story, and how does the theme relate to the main character? Well, if you remember from yesterday or Wednesday, whenever we had class, I talked about like a possible thesis, and in my thesis, I mentioned the protagonist and the theme along with 2 literary devices. So I said in Alice Walker's short story, The Flowers, the protagonist, Myop, experiences a loss of innocence, shown through Walker's use of dark imagery and allusions to racist American culture. So here's our theme, like a loss of innocence, right? Here's our protagonist. So it's not going to be too hard to say, okay, well, our theme is loss of innocence, and how does it relate to the main character? Well, she's the one that goes through the loss of innocence, right? But it's not just that, right? If you look at the entire requirement, excuse me, it says we need a transitional topic sentence, a thorough, insightful analysis, frequent references to details, inclusion of 2 meaningful quotes from the primary source, that means the story, and 2 citations from a secondary source. So we have to talk about the author or the author's background as we're also doing the analysis. Okay, so I've taken this from the database, which again is a place to go for some sources, and this was called How to Write About Alice Walker was the title of this, and it's already cited for you on there. I'll show you when I'm back, hopefully Monday, how to cite from the database. It's really easy. But what I want you to notice in an MLA citation is the first word here. Okay, typically it's going to be the author, last name first. You might not have an author for your piece. It's rare, but it happens. If that's the case, it's going to just start with the article title, right? So what you're going to be citing when you're using like a citation, like a parenthetical citation in your paper, is whatever's listed first in the citation. So in this case, Kerr, I don't know how to pronounce her name, is listed first. So this is what I'm actually going to put in parentheses in my paper after I cite this article. Again, if that wasn't there, I would cite whatever comes first in the citation. If it was the article title, I would put that. Okay, so that's really your rule here, is just look at your citation. And again, if you don't have your sources in MLA style yet, that's okay. You can still, work on, like, we're doing a practice analysis today, but just realize that, like, for next week, like for Tuesday's notes check and sources check, that hopefully at that point you can put your sources into MLA style. If your sources are coming from a different source than your, like, a database, there's like EasyBib or Citation Machine that you should be able to plug that website in and maybe fill in some blanks if it asks you for some information, and then it will spit out for you a nice citation that you can then have. So as you're going through your paper and you're citing your sources, just always look at that first word that's listed after the MLA citation. All right, so here is the article, okay? And I'm not going to read you this whole article, don't worry, I've been talking enough, my throat hurts enough. But I've highlighted some things that I think would be useful for me to talk about in my analysis of the theme and protagonist of the story. It says that Alice Walker draws on key personal experiences and represents them in a fictional context. It says that she was born to sharecropper parents. Our protagonist is has sharecropper parents. It says that she's leaving her, sharecropper house in the beginning of the story. So I could use that. The entrenched racism of the South is laid bare in many of her stories. That can definitely be talked about here, or it can be talked about later in another analysis paragraph. It says Walker's women characters in particular are portrayed as drawing on their inner strength and spirituality to withstand the challenges that they face living in the South. It's tenuous, but I think that could also work for our protagonist here. She's young, but you can get that sense at the end of the story when she kind of lays her flowers down and her summer's over, that loss of innocence, that we can maybe get a sense of how that could work for this analysis paragraph. So it says, what's one theme of the story and how does the theme relate to the main character? So again, I'm kind of keeping this stuff in mind. We need a transitional topic sentence. So I'm going to start off with a transitional topic sentence, but I want, what they mean by a transition is we just finished talking about Alice Walker's life in the paper. Your first half of the paper is the biography, the second half is the analysis. So I want to kind of transition. I might state something like, Alice Walker's life, or I will say, let's say her own life experiences are reflected in much of her work, and this is true with the flowers. So now I've introduced my story. This is what I'm going to talk about, the story of the flowers, right? And then I might say something like, what is one theme of the story? So we'll say, we could either restate that, or you could say, in this story, the theme of a loss of innocence is shown through the main character's gruesome, oh, that's not how you spell gruesome, is it? Yeah, there we go. Gruesome discovery. Now what I want you to do, and I know this is weird, but I literally want you to just write the same thing. Just type it into that assignment where it says analysis practice 1. You're just going to write this. It's basically like, I do it, you do it. It's the same thing, okay? The main character's gruesome discovery. And how does this theme relate to the main character? Okay, I'm going to go back to my map here. Thorough, insightful analysis, frequent references, details, inclusion of at least 2 main primary source and 2 citations from a secondary source. I'm going to go and quote the text here and say, let's see, we'll say, we'll start at the beginning of the story. The protagonist, Mayup, is shown to be a young, carefree child at the beginning of the story. And then I'm going to quote my text here. Where is it? Here we go. Let's see. We'll say skipping lightly. The days had never been as beautiful as these. Okay. Fortunately, this is an image, so I can't copy it, the text of it. So we'll say, carefree child at the beginning of the story. We follow her as she, say, through, and then what does it say? Days that had never been as beautiful as these. Now you'll notice I'm not gonna put a citation in because I'm stating that this is from the story The Flowers by Alice Walker. So we don't need to do that. Okay. Then we have to talk about, that was how she was at the beginning, so how does it happen at the end? After discovering the body of a hanged man on her walk, she symbolically laid down her flowers, and the summer was over. Laid down. The flower had been and the innocent, we'll say, season of her life gave way to a more serious understanding of the world. And summer was over. We'll say, shone through the last lines of the story. And summer was over. Period. Okay. So there is just how the theme relates to the main character. I haven't even gotten into the inclusion of at least 2 citations. So I'm going to go on to the next page here and include 2 citations. Walker's own life can be seen through this story because she herself came from a similar background. Actually, this is such a great quote. I'm going to use this. we'll say through many of her stories, and I'm going to put my quote in. Let's get rid of this so that we have more space. I might even cite that article and just say, in the article, How to Write About Alice Walker, and then who's our Christine Kerr. Christine Kerr states, not only does she draw on key personal experiences and represent them in a fictional context, she also directly explores the significance of certain life events. And we'll say, let's get out of this, clear the formatting here. Okay. This is shown in The Flowers because not only I will say let's change it just to one thing, because Alice Walker herself came from a similar background of sharecropping. Okay, let's look at this beast of a paragraph. Alice Walker's own life experiences are reflected in much of her work, and this is true with The Flowers. In the story, the theme of the loss of innocence is shown through the main character's gruesome discovery. I might even make that a little clearer, of a dead body, but I guess I say that later. The protagonist, Mayap, is shown to be a young, carefree child at the beginning of the story. We follow her as she, quote, skips lightly through, quote, days that had never been as beautiful as these. After discovering the body of a hanged man on her walk, she symbolically lays, we'll say lays, because this is in present tense, even though... Yeah, I might want to change this to past tense, but that's all right. It's a rough draft. Lays down the flowers she had been collecting, and the innocent season of her life gave way to a more serious understanding of the world, shown through the last lines of the story, and summer was over. Walker's own life can be seen through many of her stories. In the article, How to Write About Alice Walker, Christine, which I'm wondering if I miswrote that, Christine Kerr states, not only does she draw on key personal experiences and represent them in a fictional context, she also directly explores the significance of certain life events. This is shown in The Flowers because Alice Walker herself came from a similar background of sharecropping. And we might even want to say, perhaps she, too, had some similar loss of innocence as a young child. So I want you to just take this, and I want you just to submit it as Practice Analysis Part 1. Based on how long this took, obviously we're not going to do the other two ones because, well, I'm going to delete the third one. You're not going to do this third one. But what I would like you to do is I want you to go through the story. And again, it's a short story. And I want you to select, it says select one literary element. I want you to pull out some dark imagery, right? Because that's what the other part of my thesis was. It says in Alice Walker's short story, The Flowers, protagonist Mayap experiences a loss of innocence, shown through Walker's use of dark imagery and allusions to racist American culture. Honestly, you could do either one. If it's easier to do the racist American culture allusion through the hanged man, you could do that. I think using dark imagery, how she uses dark imagery, could probably be easier. Notice, or even that contrast of imagery, notice how she talks about the beauty of the day at the beginning, but then just the description of the hanged man here. Pull out at least 2 decent-sized phrases that then I want you to write a paragraph. So kind of transition into, you know, this paragraph. So something like, the theme of loss of innocence is shown through Walker's use of dark imagery. And then you could start to quote the text. Oh, and you do not need, I don't know if I could use a pen here. You do not need this. Okay? So give me a paragraph where you're just giving me 2 quotes showing that dark imagery, and like why that shows the loss of innocence. Okay? So let me state that down here. Write 1 paragraph about how Walker's dark imagery contributes to the theme of a loss of innocence. Wait, 1 paragraph about how Walker's dark imagery contributes to a theme of loss of innocence. So use 2 meaningful quotes to support this. This is all I want you to do. Don't worry about the other sources. I just want you practicing writing an analysis paragraph. So the whole point behind this is I want you to think about how this is what you're going to have to do for your story. So you really need to be able to draw on both the autobiographical life of your author and the story itself to do that analysis, okay? It's a big deal. So that's what I want driving your notes, driving your research. Be aware that you're going to have to use your author to support your analysis, okay? As well as using the story itself. So really, I keep drilling this into you, but make sure you've got everything you need when we start outlining next week for in order to do this for your paper. I'm not going to make you do this for your own paper yet, but again, this is just so you get a taste of what you're going to have to do, after next week once we do our outlining. Okay. Again, I'm available on Canvas. Please send me a message if you have any issues. But again, just submit for practice 1 today, just this exact paragraph that we worked on. Hopefully you were typing along with me as I did that. And then for practice analysis part 2, you're going to go through the story, find 2 examples of dark imagery, right? Like anything descriptive that shows the darkness of this hanged man, and write it in like a paragraph to show how this supports a theme of a loss of innocence for our protagonist. Okay? All right. Sorry this is such a long video. I hope it's helping, though, because I don't want my absence to kind of lose some meaningful work that we can do. All right. See you Monday, guys. Bye-bye.